Your Highness, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Saudi Arabian Pavilion at Expo 2025 Osaka, it is an honor to welcome you to this Theme Week event, The Future of Community and Mobility, under the title Leading Dialogues for Future Cities. Expo 2025 Osaka serves as a global platform bringing together some of Saudi Arabia's forward-thinking leaders and institutions. Today, we will explore how innovation, collaboration, and sustainability are transforming Saudi Arabia's cities into dynamic urban spaces in line with Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. To begin today's session, I am delighted to invite on stage our first speaker, a leader in digital transformation and artificial intelligence. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Mshari Ibrahim Al-Mishari, Deputy Director of the National Information Center at the Saudi Data and Artificial Intelligence Authority. Dr. Mishari, the floor is yours.
Your Highness, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It's an honor to stand before you today at this esteemed global gathering during Expo 2025. Together we convene to envision the future that is more connected, sustainable, and innovative, a digital future worthy of humanity in this era. At the heart of this vision lies a profound question we must all answer together. What kind of community do we aspire to live in? In the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we believe the answer begins and ends with people. Our digital transformation is not merely a technological choice, but a national endeavor, inspired by our ambitious vision and developmental will. In 2016, we launched Saudi Vision 2030, placing digital transformation at its core, recognizing data and artificial intelligence as drivers of the future and cornerstone to the digital transformation. Saudi Data and Artificial Intelligence Authority, SDAIA, was established in 2019 to spearhead the data and AI-led digital transformation through three key entities: the National Information Center, NIC, the operational arm for National Digital Infrastructure, the National Center of Artificial Intelligence, the innovation arm for AI solutions, and the National Data Management Office, NDMO, the regulatory arm for data governance and related legislation. This vision translated into concrete actions and national platforms that are changing lives. Today, digital transformation is no longer a luxury, but a necessity, redefining the relationship between governments and societies. Leading government build services designed around people, powered by data and enabled through emerging technologies. This global transformation not only enhances efficiency and transparency, but also paves the way for a new era of smart governance. This is evident in Saudi experience, which has become a model in providing unified, intelligent, and comprehensive digital government services. Allow me to share a few examples of the platforms that exemplify this transformation. SDAIA has launched several globally recognized digital initiatives. To name a few: Tawakkalna. The National Super App serves over 33 million users, citizens, residents, visitors, and tourists, offering more than 650 services from more than 250 entities. Available in 77 countries, it has become a symbol of digital convenience and quality of life. Nafad, the National Digital Identity System unifying the access to digital platforms, enables more than 4 million secure verification daily. This led to help keeping more than 300,000 vehicles off the road each day, reducing the congestions and emissions. Deen, the government cloud, merges 268 data centers for more than 200 entities, achieving 5.35 billion Saudi riyal in savings and reduced carbon emissions by more than 300 kilotons. Ihsan Platform, a leading digital philanthropy platform that has raised over 11 billion riyal, supported 10 million beneficiaries, and enabled 30,000 charitable projects, earning global recognition including Guinness World Records and World Summit Award. And the National Data Bank, a national data ecosystem managing and governing data at the national level with the high comprehensiveness and effectiveness, integrating data from over 360 government systems into one secure data lake. As part of our National Data Bank, 10,000 open data sets are published on our national open data platform, laying the foundation for a thriving data economy. These initiatives support Saudi Arabia's progress toward key United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, especially in jobs, innovation, and sustainable cities. But our ambitions extend beyond digital services. They reshape how we envision urban life itself. Digital transformation in Saudi Arabia has become an integral part of urban planning and building sustainable smart cities centered around people. While some cities around the world offer inspiring models, Saudi Arabia presents a unique model by integrating advanced digital services into smart city design, such as smart mobility, sustainable energy, and AI-powered services. This has led to the inclusion of 6 Saudi cities in the IMD Smart City Index 2025, reflecting the Kingdom's role in building smart cities that meet the highest standards of living and well-being. Our major national projects bring this vision to life across the Kingdom. From NEOM, the Red Sea Project, Giddiya, Dir'iyya, New Murabba, to King Salman Park, each initiative offers a fusion of human-centric design, sustainable infrastructure, and cutting-edge technology. Together, they form a living proof of our commitment to shaping cities of the future that are green, digital, inclusive, and immersive. To support these transformative urban efforts, we are also enabling a thriving innovation system. Saudi, through Sadaya, has launched several national initiatives, including the National Platform for Smart Cities, Smart Riyadh Operations Center, and the Global Smart City Forum, along with incubators, accelerators, boot camps, and competitive hackathons to nurture new startups. At the heart of this progress is artificial intelligence, our strategic cornerstone. AI in Saudi Arabia is not just a tool. It's a foundation for sovereign capability, cultural relevance, and responsible innovation. This is evident in several national innovative AI-powered solutions, such as Allam, a leading Arabic generative AI language model built on 500 billion text units available to developers on global platforms. Sawtek, the most accurate Arabic speech-to-text solution that converts speech into text in both modern standard Arabic and various local dialects, used for transcribing and documenting meetings encompassing over 40,000 hours of audio. Aynai, an AI-powered solution that contributed to the early detection of diabetic retinopathy in over 840 cases within a year. These breakthroughs have earned Saudi Arabia the recognition of the global digital community. In the Global Artificial Intelligence Index by Tortoise Media, Saudi Arabia ranks 14th globally and the first globally in the category of government AI strategy. In the AI Governance International Evaluation Index by the Center for Long-Term Artificial Intelligence, the Kingdom ranks 11th globally. In the digital government performance, the United Nations ranks Saudi Arabia 6th globally in the e-government development index and 1st globally in the open government development index. Yet, we remain grounded in the reality that transformation is a journey, not a destination. While progress has been substantial, we acknowledge the persistent and evolving challenges that accompany such rapid transformation, from policy and regulatory framework to infrastructure development and the continuous upskilling of national talent in line with the pace of technological advancement. To address ongoing challenges, we have taken a strategic and systematic approach. Through the National Data Management Office, NDMO, we enacted the Personal Data Protection Law and key policies on data classification, data sharing, freedom of information, and open data, and the generative AI use in government. Additionally, through the National Information Center, we built sovereign digital infrastructure powered by over 45 years of operational expertise in secure operations, connecting, enabling, and hosting entities. And as part of our ongoing efforts to empower national talent in the fields of data and artificial intelligence, we have trained more than 750,000 beginners, along with approximately 10,000 specialists and 260 researchers and experts through high-quality programs aligned with global best practices. We also take pride in the participation of Saudi women in the tech sector, an integral part to building a smart era and digital economy. Our effort was reflected in the increase of women's participation in the tech sector from 7% in 2018 to 35% today, the highest in the region. In conclusion, our mission transcends technology. We are not merely building systems, we are rebuilding trust, humanizing services, and anchoring innovation in values. Under the visionary leadership of His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince and the Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom continues to lead in shaping smarter cities, asserting digital sovereignty, and putting people at the center of transformation. From the heart of Osaka, we invite the world to join us in partnership, to innovate across borders, to build together, and to shape a better, more integrated world, more sustainable cities, and a future worthy of us all. We look forward to welcoming you in Riyadh Expo 2030. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Mshari, for this insightful presentation. Now, let us hear from a series of speakers who will each provide a unique perspective on how Saudi Arabia is pioneering new models for urban development. We would like to welcome to the stage our next speaker, Mr. Abdurrahman Ibrahim, Chief Data and Innovation Officer of Al Madina Region Development Authority. Mr. Abdurrahman, the floor is yours. Yes. Let's give a round of applause for Abdurrahman.
Assalamu alaikum. Konnichiwa. I am a provocative thinker who help cities and organizations ask the right questions. That's why the title of this presentation is Can a City Deeply Rooted in History and Culture be a Smart City? And the reason we asked ourselves this question is that Medina is dear and special for nearly 2 billion Muslims worldwide, and important for another nearly 2 billion curious non-Muslims for its cultural and historic richness. This importance started 14 centuries ago when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, immigrated from Mecca to Medina. And today, the city inhabits 1.5 million residents. And last year, we hosted 18 million visitors. This number is 40% higher than the year before, 13 million. And the 13 million is almost double the number of visitors pre-COVID. It was between 6 and 7 million people before COVID. So the number of visitors is dramatically increasing. The population is increasing on average 3% annually as well. Mostly young population. We have more than 70% workforce and around 50% under the age of 30. From the smart city perspective, again, we ask ourselves, how can we put those people at the center of attention to be a smart city? One key lesson that we've learned throughout our journey is we should focus on the outcomes of the smart city rather than the inputs in terms of technology. The technology is merely a supporting mean to achieve certain outcomes. And the outcomes that we are trying to achieve as a smart city goes around three main core values: the sustainability of the city, the resilience, and consequently improving the quality of life of our residents and enriching the experiences of our visitors. Now let me share with you how can we in Medina realize these core values through three examples. The first example using technology is Manara Urban Data Platform. And Manara in Arabic means the beacon. So the platform is the beacon for the decision makers and the public as one single source of data and indicators for Medina region. The platform consists of several verticals or applications. I will go through some of them as examples. For example, the GeoPortal in Manara platform it is one of the most advanced worldwide. It has 473 layers of maps that covers 150,000 kilometers with the base map, utilities, and imagery archive since 1964. Those data is augmented by a reality modeling and mobile mapping that helps the decision makers to visualize the city in 3D. And since resilience is one of our core values and floods are one of key challenges that we face in Medina, we modeled and simulated the floods in Medina, and one of the main outcomes is to realize the hotspots during the flood seasons. And this input is given to two main stakeholders, the civil defense. So they mobilize and prepare their forces ahead of time to critical areas, and for the municipality as well to intervene through improving the infrastructure in certain areas to channel the floods towards out of the city. The message that I'm trying to convey here, we are sitting on huge data, big data, but how can we benefit from this data for the city and its visitors and residents. So we focus more on how we transform this data and insights towards meaningful insights. We produced the first Sustainable Development Goals voluntary local review in Saudi Arabia. It's on the city level, and we covered 9 SDGs out of the 17. Usually cities worldwide cover only one SDG, which is SDG 11. We covered 9 SDGs due to the availability and reliability of data that we have. Not only that, this report was issued on 2023. This year, in a couple of weeks, we will issue another report, voluntary local review, not only on the city level, but we will go into the neighborhoods level. It will be one of the very first VLRs worldwide on the neighborhoods level, because we have all the data and indicators mapped throughout the 473 layers of data that we have. Another example, we are the first city in the Middle East to issue the resilience report to outline the risks that are around the city and how to mitigate them through Sendai framework and Paris Accord. And recently also we have produced our livability report that measures the quality of life in Medina city. If you noticed, these are covering the 3 core values that we are trying to realize: sustainability, resilience, and quality of life. But again, the question becomes, how can we translate those insights to better management of the city and better services for the residents and visitors? So when we studied the cities, the smart cities, quote unquote, worldwide, we have realized 3 main characteristics. The city departments within each city work in silo. So the municipality work in silo, the utility companies, electricity, water, energy, work in silo, the security forces work in silo, the traffic lights are in different systems. So this is a challenge, and the way we do it in Medina, we consider the city as one system. It's a system of systems. Secondly, the technology adoption in smart cities are usually supply-driven. It is greatly influenced by the technology vendors. And technology vendors usually impose what we call a one-size-fits-all solution. So when we receive the technology vendor sales executives, they will start always with the following statement: we did a solution in Shanghai, in New York, and probably in Osaka in crowd management, because we do the Universal Studios, we do the Expo, so we can do it in Medina as well. The point is, every city is unique, and we cannot all the time rely on the one-size-fits-all. The solutions need to be customized for the city, for each city individually. Thirdly, due to the supply-driven syndrome, you see in this, there is a chaos in the city, within each city, with different systems, different networks that confuse people and systems. So how do we tackle this in Medina? We tackle it through what we call Rasil Smart City Platform. Rasil in Arabic, in the dictionary, has 2 meanings. First, the messenger, and secondly, it's one of the derivatives of a seamless flow of water. What we are trying to achieve is to have a seamless flow of data within the stakeholders of the city. Not only that, within the city and with the national government entities, because this is another big silo. Once we tackle this, the seamless data flow within the city, then we can manage the city more efficiently. Once we manage the city more efficiently, then we can provide better services to its consumers, visitors and residents. Then we have synchronized data, which lead to better analytics and understanding, and consequently, it will boost innovation. Rasil Smart City Platform has won the best innovation for smart cities in Saudi Arabia in 2022. And we started plugging in the verticals, starting with the smart lighting. It's the first smart lighting worldwide based on one new technology, an emerging technology. It's called LoRaWAN. But the question again becomes, we have the data, we have the platforms. I gave you two examples of platforms, the Manara platform and Rasil platform. How can we embed the people's part? We are claiming that we are a human-centric smart city. How can we translate and embed this concept in our smart city? The answer is, it's through our city experience playbook. We defined 7 personas that consume Medina City. It might be different in other cities, but for our city, we defined 7 personas. Each persona has a job to be done, an objective in their experience with the city. Those jobs to be done, we defined 22 jobs to be done. Those jobs to be done creates tens of journeys throughout the city. We've captured and outlined 148 journeys. Not only that, the 148 journeys intersect with the IoT of the city, with the government entities, with the infrastructure, with the processes. We mapped all these throughout this playbook. And consequently, now we fully understand what the city needs to improve, delivering what the 7 personas want to achieve within the city. Now, instead of now receiving the sales and marketing executives of the technology vendors with their nice PowerPoint presentations and catalogs, we stopped receiving their catalogs. We asked them to read our catalog, our playbook, understand it, and deliver specific solutions that meet the needs of our residents and visitors. It's not the other way around. Also, the playbook has become, since last year, the reference, one of the references for the urban planners in the municipality. So their urban plans should respect the jobs to be done of the 7 personas. The playbook has won several prizes. The last one was Seoul Smart City Prize in 2023 as a best innovation, non-technologic innovation worldwide. Going back to the initial question, can a city deeply rooted in history and culture be a smart city? Our answer, yes, with all confidence. As long as we respect and maintain the identity of the city and put the people at the heart of the development. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Abdulrahman, for this presentation. We would like to welcome to the stage our next speaker, Ms. Noura Al Youssef, Chief Global Engagement Officer at the Quality of Life Program. Ms. Noura, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today, people in the room and people online as well that are watching us. It's a great pleasure to be at Expo 2025 Osaka, and I echo my colleagues' sentiments when we look forward to hosting you all in Saudi Arabia in 2030. Today, I have the privilege to talk to you about quality of life. Something that means different things for different people. Different people in different parts of the world, different generations from age, youth, to the elderly, all connect to the concept of quality of life in their own unique way. But today I'm going to tell you the journey of quality of life in Saudi Arabia. Our main mission is to have a quality of life that the world aspires to. And this is a huge mission that we embarked on in 2017. Rooted very deeply in our leadership's vision for a nation hungry for development and transformation, a cornerstone within which we build all of our plans and initiatives. As you can see, as a quote from our king, King Salman, "My primary goal is to be an exemplary and leading nation in all aspects, and I will work with you in achieving this endeavor." This is the spirit which guides us and makes us wake up every day to continue on our mission. Supported also by the Crown Prince, we are determined to build a thriving country in which all citizens can fulfill their dreams, hopes, and ambitions. Today, the Quality of Life program, one of Vision 2030's program, and one that I'm very proud to be a part of, is a program that is cross-cutting. We heard earlier today about the kingdom's investment in technology, in smart city solutions, in AI, but what brings us all together? What makes sure that we're looking at things holistically? That's the program. That is the Quality of Life program. Our main mission is to improve quality of life for individuals, families, residents, citizens, visitors, to make sure that the options are available for everyone to live the life that they aspire within the kingdom. How do we do that? We look at quality of life from two perspectives. On one hand, you have livability, your hardware, and on the other hand, you have your lifestyle, the software. It is very difficult to run software without the hardware. So as such, we look at things such as what is our housing availability, what is the urban planning within our cities? If I want to immerse myself in cultural activities, do I have the infrastructure supporting those cultural activities that we all so much enjoy? If I am an admirer of sports or have the ambition to be a professional athlete, do we have the right ecosystem in place to support that journey? So we look at things very holistically. Within the program, we have 10 strategic goals that we are focused on. Developing our culture and heritage sector. Within that, we have 2 goals. We have enabling our sporting sector, also 2 goals within Vision 2030 that we aim to deliver on. Urban planning and design, we're here to talk about smart cities. And we're looking at the human aspect and making sure that that human aspect is embedded in our urban planning principles and processes. And a colleague will talk to you more detail about that. Entertainment and hobbies. One of our flagship projects is to ensure that every citizen and every resident in the kingdom has a hobby, because we know that by spending 30 minutes a week in your hobby improves your overall well-being. It's not much of a time investment, But our goal is that every resident in the kingdom does have a hobby, whatever it may be. Enabling our tourism sector, our land is so diverse with 13 regions, different topographies, different food, different music. So we very much need to invest in our tourism sector so that we are ready to host the world to come and experience it. Our security sector. It is very important that our residents and visitors feel safe visiting our country. Today, we are in Japan. We're in Osaka, where when we walk the streets in the neighborhoods, we feel safe. We would like to offer that back to citizens when they come and visit us. So these are just some of our 10 strategic goals that we are focused on within the Vision 2030 mandate today. You may ask yourself, that's quite a lot, and it is indeed quite a lot. So we've summarized it a little bit here. One of our key things that we look to aim to offer is additional cultural days and events within the kingdom, across the kingdom. Now to do that, you need infrastructure, you need livability aspects to be in place. Also one of our missions is to increase the rates of sporting activities in our communities. This is something I'm very proud of today. Growing up in the kingdom as a girl, my options were limited. I had very limited options to choose from. I was lucky to come from a family that encouraged sports for girls. Today, our girls have so many options to choose from. The sky is the limit. One of our initiatives that we worked on was to ensure that physical education was added to the curriculum for girls in schools, that they had the facilities to practice sports. And not only that, that they could dream of being a professional athlete and be in the Olympics one day. And as you see, we do have Saudi women in the Olympics today, and that makes my heart smile. 170 initiatives. As you can imagine, it's quite a bit. 6 sectors, 170 initiatives. Think of us as the quality of life incubator of initiatives with other government partners. We work with 25 government partners. Today you're going to hear from many of them, including the City of Medina, Ministry of Interior, and others. Ministry of Economy and Planning is also here with us today. But I would like to share one very special initiative today, the Global Quality of Life Initiative. As you remember, I said quality of life means different things for different people. That the definition of quality of life can be related to all walks of life. So how do we measure it? How do we make sure our cities are on the right path? So today we have an initiative which is in partnership with the United Nations, and our main goal is to try to capture what people value the most in their cities. We anchor this in 9 domains, which I will share with you momentarily. But what's very unique about this is it combines the objective measures that we're also used to hearing. You see numbers, number of hospitals or number of schools or number of hospital beds. But where's the subjective feeling in this? How do I feel about the schools? Am I satisfied with the options that are available to me? Am I satisfied with the health care that is available to me? So we combine the objective data with also the people's lived experiences, the subjective feeling of it. As I mentioned, this is how we look at quality of life from a technical perspective. 9 domains, starting with basic services and mobility, which anchors us in today's session and theme week at Expo. Governance, health and well-being, economy, environment, one of my favorites, social cohesion, education, housing, culture, and recreation. These 9 domains are interconnected. They work together. You cannot prioritize one over the other. However, some cities may need to do so in order to advance what they need for their people in their cities. We go a step further. It's not enough to just look at the domains. We have to look at them through lenses, as I mentioned earlier. Affordability, accessibility. Do I have the right choice mix available? Am I being inclusive of all members of our communities and cities within the kingdom? Satisfaction and adequacy. So this is the cornerstone or the foundation of this global initiative that the kingdom is working on with the United Nations, but not just with the United Nations. It is a global effort. In Japan, we are working very closely with the Japan Smart Cities Institute, a partner that's been with us for over 2 years working on this. We work with 160 global experts worldwide. We are working within different city networks to ensure that we take on board where we are today in this world and make sure that it is built into this initiative so that it is meaningful for all. We have engagements across the world, and again, very happy to be here in Osaka with you today. Lastly, the innovation that comes out of this. So I'm very passionate about the human experience, the feeling that you have when you're in a physical space. But today we need to bridge that with technology. Today's generations or younger generations are born with technology. So how do we harness it to ensure an overall sense of well-being for generations to come? How do we instill those elements of wisdom in them and their choices and how they use technology? So this project, we try to do that very thing. We have created a platform that is cutting-edge emerging technology, but it's measuring something that matters to everyone today and tomorrow. We're using AI tools to help inform policy making. We're doing foresight models so that cities around the world can estimate what may happen if they pull too heavy on one quality of life domain. But again, the innovation is not just about the technology, as we heard my colleague Abdulrahman say. The innovation is about progress. And the progress that we're looking for is human progress within the context of innovation and our cities worldwide. Coming back to our overall mission within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. One may say, quality of life, it's a broad concept, but it's hard to touch and feel it, right? Again, if you cannot define it distinctly. But what we do to make sure that we're anchored is we look at all of our initiatives through a comprehensive economic, social, and environmental impact framework to make sure that our initiatives are on track and are delivering the impact that we want it to deliver. These are just some examples of some of the economic impact when you invest in quality of life sectors. For the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we have 19.1 billion Saudi riyals contribution to non-governmental investment across the landscape. 1.5 billion contribution to GDP within the country. 8.29 billion contribution to non-oil revenue. And 37% contribution to our local content. And these numbers are only increasing year on year. Some numbers to share with you, and again, we're still at the beginning of our journey, but these are numbers to be very proud of. 99% trust level in security services in the kingdom today. In addition, we have an 82% satisfaction rate with living conditions among expatriates in the kingdom today. And over almost 4,000 days of cultural events in Saudi Arabia today. These are just to name a few of our achievements thus far and continuing to grow. Just some parting words with everyone today in person and online. Quality of life in the kingdom is not just a concept. It's a journey intricately woven into the fabric of our daily life, touching on the lives of everyone in our country. It's the moments when you feel part of continuous success story, a nation thriving to deliver the very best for its people, paving the way towards a brighter and more promising future. Thank you everyone for listening. And with that, I hand over.
Thank you, Ms. Noura, for your presentation. And finally, we are pleased to invite to the stage Dr. Adel Zahrani, Executive Director of Sustainable Communities Development at Roshan, which is a giga project contributing to livable and sustainable communities across Saudi Arabia. Dr. Adel, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Mastakum Allah bil khair. Good evening and thank you for your generous and hospitality. I really enjoyed the couple of days I spent here in Osaka, and I worked on both sides. I worked as in policy and as an urban designer and as a master planner. Plus I was an educator. I was a dean of architecture school for a number of years in the States and in Saudi Arabia. And always I have a question to ask, which is, are we designers? Are we master planners? Are we decision makers? Why I'm saying that? Because if we're gonna just be only designers or only policy makers, we're gonna focus only on writing down the code, the guidelines, the standards. Then at the end of the day, we're gonna end up by missing something. We are just taking care of the structure. But I believe all of us today in the expo here in Osaka, and what my colleagues were talking about, all is about building life in our cities. I will share with you a very interesting concept, which is more about what we call the symbiotic urbanism, and how the city moves us from rigid infrastructure to intimacy. This is the key. What does that mean? It means that the city that we call it today symbiotic is the city that breathes. What does it mean? If the buildings, the single masses communicate with the public spaces, if the streets communicate with the people who live in the city, we can call it livability. We can call it quality of life. We can call it we brought lifestyle to our cities. The message that always I used to tell my students, and I was talking to my colleagues when I was working as a deputy minister, and my message also when I am talking to my colleagues in the private sectors, that we are not here to just borrow ideas from Paris or from Copenhagen or New York. We are here basically is to learn from the history and to take it into a next level, which is, we call it the strategy. Doesn't mean that we recycle the past. No, we learn from the past, then we progress the present, and we goes into the future. The symbiotic urbanism basically is the value of the physical elements of any urban fabric that can let the city gives and receive. It's very interesting when many people actually, when they look to a city, they think when you visit Osaka or Tokyo or Paris or Copenhagen, or when you visit wherever the best place on earth that you like to visit, you think when you go and enjoy the outdoor spaces and the city, it means it's 1 + 1 = 2. No. there is a huge leadership, huge economy, huge generations after generations that developed the quality that we are looking for. If we talk about the physical elements, if we think seriously about the components, how can we generate the history and bring it to our existing fabric? If we look to the, how can we build the platform of our cities to host our parties? It's very important to look at the component of the city, which means that we are not repeating what I call it actually a self-reflection. We copy and we paste. No, it's not done this way. It's actually, we should develop a city that deserves the future. The mindset basically today, when you heard my colleagues talking, Abdurrahman and Noura, basically, these young generations, they came up with the new ideas that not only to lead the future, but to put the manuscript for how we want to see our cities in Saudi Arabia in the future. So this can tell you that today we are leading our future by a mindset, not by just copy and paste. This is very interesting. If we look to 4 minutes of intimacy in any city you visit today, if you look here in Osaka, you can go for a cup of coffee, then you enjoy walking, then you see the meaning and the quality, the texture. If you walk in any European city, you can really see how it's really safe, walkable, infrastructure, and so on. These are the keys that we are looking for. So as a master planner and as a designer, we are not looking for just to sketch. We are looking for how we can really, the line with that we are drawing on the trace paper means a lot. A city is not a machine. It's where actually a system that Dr. Michel was talking about that can really deliver what I can call it the movement, the memory, and the meaning, where all of them, they interact together, which is, you can call it integration, but we call it the symbiotic. If the city push you to use your own car to buy bread, this means it's a hostage situation. Seriously, I'll tell you why. Because when we are working in our cities across all over the world, and it's listen to learn, we are learning from each other. We are working basically as a designer to put, first, I need really to look to the master plan. It looks so nice. But they're not looking at the integration. They're looking at the separation for the users. This is what led to what I call it the urban sick syndrome. And the urban sick syndrome basically is the city that makes you sick. That can really hurt us. 4 symptoms that can really lead to a disaster on the individual level, and this will be later on accumulated to the national level. If we look to the physical health issues, 89% contributed to the urban fabric, to the city itself. This is the situation that you see in the hospital. Don't tell me this is, you can have it from your own home. No, this is, you can have it from the influence of the city. If you look to the mental and sensory, oh, that's a disaster. When you look to many, when I was living in different cities in the world for years and years, month and month, sometimes you have a cough, sometimes, but when you go to the ER, you see how it's so crowded, because what we can see today, it's asthma, environmental issues, car accident, and so on. This is the situation that we have. The city can produce this disaster here. The social cohesion, it's one of the very important pillars in quality of life Noura was talking about. If we don't take care of it with the physical form of the city, we're gonna end up by an urban segregations. No cohesion in the city itself, in terms of the physical, in terms of how we're gonna respect the component of the city itself. The urban sickness, right? We have something what we call the time poverty. Time poverty is when the city really steals your time, when you go to a job, then you reach to your job so down, low productivity, because your energy got drained, right? And many other issues. So from siloed to symbiotic, how can really let the city works? But the key starts from you as a master planner. Then later on you bring the infrastructure expert, the smart system expert, the people who can really study the IRR, the people who can study really what is the return value that can make your city competitive. All the cities around the world has a theme. And the theme, as I said in the beginning, it's not 1 + 1 = 2. We are looking for vibrancy, right? How the city can really have a vibe, okay? The lifestyle. So the theme today is about quality of life. It's not just about, I need to have a nice city. If you have a nice city, but the city doesn't provide you to be happy, no, right? So leave the city, right? So what are the framework that we are thinking to have it in the symbiotic, right? There are 5 main elements. Each element has 2 icons, hardware and software. If we take, for example, the edge of the city, the edge of the buildings, the ground level, or what we call the plinth, is the key where the lives start there. Can you imagine that the corner of the street is classified and categorized as a public space? A public space. It means that a place where people really enjoy. What are the software? How can I really create a perception? A really nice perception, right? The overlap, all right? I'm not gonna go into that details. We're gonna see this in the coming example. Very interesting also, I have here what are the checklists for each of one of these 5 elements that can really produce the symbiotic. All right, now, one example from Tokyo, everyone knows this project. It's a lovely project. When I used to go to Tokyo, I really go and spend some time there, right? And why this project is, we see it as a project that combine all the symbiotic elements, because if you look at the edge, look at the movement, right? Look at the overlap. It's a library, it's a bookstore, it's a cafe, it's a gallery. They'll overlap together in one spot, right? So they create a mood. They create a mood. This is what we want. If you look here to the Shinsekai in Osaka, why this is very interesting, right? Because if you look to the overlap, if you look to the movement, if you look to the time, here we're talking about life. So when you design, when you compile the massing, the physical fabric, the structure, this is what you want to produce to the city. So the movement is a memory. Always, most of the master planners, they think that the public space is what we call the leftover spaces. Okay, so this lift spaces we can later on put on the shelf. We can turn it into a playground later in the future. No, it's part of the land use itself. This is what actually I see it as the blood and the cells, the public spaces in the city. Full system. Here you can see a full system on a sidewalk, from the inner spaces to the edge of the building, to the sign system, to the walking sidewalk, where people they can sit between the hierarchy from the public to the semi-public to the private, and so on. It's a whole system only in this image, only this image. Not only on that one, let's go to a more micro level here. The interaction between the indoor and the outdoor. If you think that only the massing and it's beautiful enough, no. It's even the glass, the partition between the indoor and outdoor is a key, is a standard. It's very important. It's a corner, right? So we are part of the international movement. We are not working in Saudi Arabia solo. Here, actually, if you want to know more about the giga projects, the vision of the country, you can go with the mother country with the PIF. It's a governmental company. It's called the Saudi Public Investment Fund. If you want to go to Roshan, one of the companies of the PIF, to learn more about the project and the quality. So we are aligning in Roshan in developing more about, we are a master developer, master real estate development in the country, and we are having a clear mandate, a clear KPI, a clear vision, how we want to build cities for people. It's very important today to think more about how can I go from a macro level to a meso level to a micro level. This is very, very important for us. From iconic places to celebrate the history. How can we witness a grand infrastructure project, and how can we jump into more creating and respecting the history? It's very interesting that we are developing our own KPIs based on the needs of the people. And by the way, let me tell you something. Mainly, we are between the quality of life programs, where Noura belonged and managing, and other ministries that are enabling us. So here they put the Bible, and here they put the governance system. This is how I see it. Very important today to see that in our city we are moving from today to tomorrow. We are enhancing the quality of life of the physical form of our own cities from a macro level to the eye level. Very interesting as a master planning to understand that what kind of space you would like to propose and produce, from a passive system to a symbiotic system. And let me tell you something, that there are 10 principles to achieve the symbiotic urbanism. We are trying to go within one cycle, which is how can I produce an environment that can be human-centric. If we talk about public realm, mobility, if we talk about open spaces, and so on. These are the 10 elements. I'm not going to talk about the details for each of those forces, but I'm going to go with more about the tier, then what are the principles, then the design elements that are very important. How can we translate these forces into more design elements? This is one of the very interesting projects. We worked on it. How can we really link the ground level with the outdoor spaces? If we talk about the frontage, how to activate it, what kind of system? Am I okay, fine, if I put one giant elevation on one use, or if I'm gonna break it down into multiple uses? Very interesting today to see the interaction between a building and the one next to it, and the ground floor of this building and what's next to it. This is one of the sketches. Usually when I do a test fit, it's very important to test fit, first of all, the size. Then you jump more about how you're going to connect it with the landscape, with the public spaces. Then after that, you're going to go to the symbiotic theme as a mindset guy. And okay, how I want people to feel in each of one of these spots. Then you keep developing the master plan, developing until you reach to a very nice conclusion, which is I can really bring people to enjoy this space. Not to satisfy the boss about, we have a nice master plan. What do you think? No, it's how can I really, after this one, I can take it later on, I can measure it, I can put some KPIs about the return of value, about how people will enjoy, about what lessons learned, and you end up with a lot of things. All these notations about, I'm writing this here, the feeling, okay? How people will feel in each of these spots, what kind of use to support them. So at the end, thank you so much. And this is my answer for the symbiotic. I love actually what we are working on it. And this is very important to tell people today that we are not going just to deliver cities with the mega giant skyscrapers. We are delivering cities for people. Thank you so much, and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adil, for this thought-provoking presentation. We now move to our panel discussion, where our speakers will explore innovative pathways to building connected, sustainable, and inclusive cities. Please join me in welcoming our panelists to the stage. His Highness Abdurrahman bin Ayyaf, Assistant Director of Regional Councils Affairs at the Ministry of Interior. Abdurrahman Al-Zamil, General Manager of Sustainability Enablement at the Ministry of Economy and Planning. Abdurrahman Ibrahim, Chief Data and Innovation Officer at Al Madina Region Development Authority. Noura Al Youssef, Chief Global Engagement Officer at the Quality of Life Program. And Dr. Adil Al Zahrani, Executive Director of Community Development Charters at Roshan.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome my guests here, and we're going to really talk about something very nice. You're going to love the discussion that we're going to go into it. And all what we need really, first of all, is to make sure that we have, in any city in the world, we have different layers. We have the more a national level, then we have a local level, then we have more a human-centering quality of life level. Today we have our guests. We're going to cover the level start from the national part into the local part. Let's start with Noura about the first question, and I know Noura is in the micro level, but I want to start with you about quality of life. Mobility is often reduced to infrastructure and transportation networks, right? But how would you redefine mobility through the lens of quality of life? How can you see mobility as part of quality of life, something that makes people happy? Not just a very rigid infrastructure in the city. And as a lived and social and emotional experience in future city. Tell us more before we jump into the national level.
Thank you, Doctor. It's a very big question, right? So mobility in general, right, can either foster better social cohesion or it can fragment it. What do I mean by this? Mobility throughout any setting, right, whatever the mode, are we walking, are we biking, are we in a train, or are we in a car, right? Irrespective of the mode, you are experiencing some form of a journey. And that journey has interactions with not only a physical space, but with other people in that space with you. There's an example that we always look at from a quality of life perspective in children. Did you know that children that walk to school, the physical act of walking to school, actually are better performers at school? Why is that? There are a few reasons why that is. One, they're engaging in physical activity first thing during the day, which kind of gets their systems charged and going. Two, they're interacting with members of their community along that journey, whether it's friendly smiles or good mornings or high fives, whatever it may be. There's a physical interaction that happens. All of this kind of primes them or charges them up to arrive at school, ready to perform at school. So I use this as a really simple example. Doctor, you mentioned in your presentation earlier about the long journeys, commute times of people to get to work, right? And this can have a negative effect on your overall kind of quality of life. Exhaustion, time spent, And today, within our digital world, if we just put our headphones in and kind of hide within our digital space and not engage in the journey along the way, you're isolating yourself also from your community. It doesn't mean you don't have let's say, a mobility community. We know people that when they commute on the same train, they see the same people. Do you say good morning? Do you engage with them? Do you have conversations with them? Or do you isolate and kind of hide yourself in your book or into your headphones or your digital device? So from a quality of life perspective, mobility is very important, whatever the mode is, whether it is, like I said, walkability, or if it's public transportation, or even your own transportation if you're driving your own car. So it really is overall interconnected. But for me, I really look at how does mobility foster social cohesion, and what is our responsibility in that side of things?
Yeah, thank you so much, Noura. Now, quality of life across all the sectors. Now, let's set the high-level national vision and strategic mandate. Mr. Zamil, from your perspective, how does Ministry of Economy and Planning translate national SDG ambitions into localized policies across all ministries and the national stakeholders?
So, first of all, thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to be here with you, with all of these esteemed speakers today. So just to address your question, so we don't treat localization as a downstream to as an implementation issue. We look at it from the start, where we integrate them into policy planning. And we start by making sure that national strategies are built with clear line of sight at local levels. And our role is to translate vision into execution. And that means working with the whole spectrum of stakeholders, from ministries to regulators to authorities and specific service providers as well. One of our most important tools that we have been utilizing is building capacity recently, where we use implementation, where actually implementation happens on ground, actually. And an example, and I have here His Highness Prince Abdurrahman, and we had this experience recently, a couple of weeks ago. We ran a series of workshops, or we ran a workshop, and based on that, we're going to be running a series of workshops with the Ministry of Interior and the Amarat, basically to strengthen local understanding of sustainability and give regional actors guiding principles to prepare for the voluntary local reviews. These voluntary local reviews are, we don't just consider them as reporting tools, but also visibility tools, where it helps regions identify or see their unique gaps and opportunities, and it helps us as national government to adjust national support accordingly to them. So it is not just coordination, but it's more about empowerment, alignment, and data-informed decision-making, basically.
Thanks, Abdurrahman. Now, I think what you just raised right now, it's more about very important intersect between what you are doing as MEP and Minister of Interior. And His Highness, my question, actually, just to follow up what Abdurrahman, Mr. Zamil said right now, that's a national vision. What is it, the single, actually, or the most critical enablers to speed up the SDG localization across the kingdom? Minister of Interior.
Okay, thank you, and I'm glad to be here. Actually, the ministry's role is primarily administrative, facilitative, and supportive ensuring that the regional governance functions effectively under the framework of regional governance law. And through the deputyship of Regions Affairs, we organize and coordinate administrative structures across regions, governance, and centers, and ensuring alignment between local plannings, between local planning efforts and national development strategies, including Vision 2030 and the SDGs. Thank you.
You raised a very important point, Your Highness. Now, I think I need the audience to bear with me because we are still on the national level. So I'll go back to Ministry of Economy, Mr. Zambil. What is actually, or how do you see usually the SDG as a tool to enhance the quality of life in the country?
So I will take it from maybe a little bit of a different perspective. I think looking at it from a national level and as a main critical enabler to support local authorities is from a clarity point of view. We believe that clarity in the role, clarity in the responsibilities, and clarity of expected impact at a local level is extremely important. In a country like Saudi Arabia with vast and diverse landscapes and varieties, localization only works if we recognize sustainable development and that it means different things in different places. The needs of a growing tech hub in Riyadh is completely different than the need of a coastal village in Jazan, for example. So we need to create a space for a tailored approach. And that starts with being crystal clear about who is responsible for what and how we'll be measuring progress. The shift we're pushing is from compliance to contribution. Every local entity basically should see itself as a contributor to national ambition and not just a recipient of national plans.
You just raised a very important point, which is the shift from compliance into contribution. And I will go back to His Highness about a question that how implementation happens in real governance structure.
Actually, we have fragmentation and coordination gaps. So multiple government institutions often operate in parallel, so without integration and planning or communication. This can lead to overlapping efforts or and also some regions face challenges in areas like data collection and planning tools or tracking.
So now we'll go from the national into a little bit more in the governance, and my question is to Mr. Abdurrahman Ibrahim from Al Medina. We loved what you presented and what kind of an amazing achievement. It's a benchmark actually what you are doing in Al Medina. So from policy framework to practical city action, how is Al Medina doing this at a neighborhood level?
Thank you, Dr. Adel. You mean in SDG localization perspective?
Yes.
Okay. Before I answer the question, I would like to share with you a piece of information. The Sustainable Development Goals, 17 goals, were launched, I believe, in 2016-17, by the 15 by the United Nations. And there are, I believe, more than 130 targets within the 17 SDGs. 65% of those targets lie on the shoulders of cities. Yet, all the talk, all the planning, all the strategies, all the policies are on international level and respectively to the national level. There is less that have been done in the past 6 to 7 years on the local level. I'm not talking about Saudi Arabia, I'm talking internationally. So there is a huge gap in SDG realization on the local level, although the responsibility lies more on the cities. This leads me to answer your question. We strongly believe in Al Madina that cities should take the initiative. They should not wait for the national government agencies to come with their help, with their policies. Yes, help is coming, but the initiative has to start from on the local level. From that angle, Al Madina has produced, as I shared in my presentation, the Voluntary Local Review, the VLR, in 2023 on the city level. We issued a year ahead a review on the province level, Al Madina region. And now, in a few weeks, we will produce on the neighborhood level. The key message here, the VLR needs to be data-driven, evidence-based, not a marketing tool, to set the needle to the right direction for the decision makers on the local and national levels. This is one angle. Another angle, the sustainability is not only about environment, it's a wide spectrum, socially, economically, and environment, but they cannot be realized without the people themselves. And we face two challenges. First, the government officials on the local level lack the awareness on what are the SDGs and what should they do. And here comes the Medina Region Development Authority is trying to fulfill this gap by workshops and focus groups with local government officials to increase the awareness about the SDGs. And from those reports that we are producing, we are producing sub-reports, executive summaries for each entity alone. So they don't need to read the 300 pages, they need just to read 5 pages, customized to that government entity on the local level. What should be their action plan? Also, the residents themselves. We cannot realize the SDGs if the people themselves are not involved. We did various engagements with the different city residents on different ages and backgrounds through different engagements. For instance, one of the forums that we've arranged in Medina, we engaged school students and defining their aspirations about the SDGs. Another event with the youth between the age of 18 until 23. What SDGs mean to them and what should they do 5 to 10 years, because this generation will lead the city in the coming 5 to 10 years. So this is, in a nutshell, what we are trying to do in Medina. We believe, again, that the initiative has to start from the cities, not on the national level.
Nice. I like what you just mentioned right now, and I believe there was kind of like a collaboration between Al Madina and Quality of Life program. My question to Noura, what are the things that other cities in the world, or even Saudi Arabia, can learn from Al Madina model?
So many things. But
Great.
before I get there,
Please.
Since quality of life seems to be the umbrella that brings us all together, and you started with the question to Abdurrahman about the SDGs and quality of life. We have a perspective that we're working with our global partners, is that quality of life, or the quality of life domains and lenses, When you focus on that and delivering that for people, by default, you're going to achieve the SDGs. We still have challenges in monitoring and reporting and measurements. Medina is very advanced in their solutions and capacity to be able to do that. But if we focus on the human centricity of quality of life first and making sure that's at the heart of what we're doing, by default, you're going to achieve many different things, right? It's kind of the driver as we see it, or one of the main inputs. Medina has been a pioneering city within the Global Quality of Life Initiative. They were the first to pilot the new framework for quality of life, followed by the city of Vancouver, the city of Bhubaneswar in India. I need to remember all of them now, Querétaro in Mexico. So we were very conscious that we were working with pioneering cities around the world. Medina kind of led the trail and achieved kind of great results from their workshops that he's mentioned, with engaging with community members, engaging with the people, right? It's really important that not only is there a top-down or kind of a national direction or an international or global agenda, but what's the bottom-up? That's what I discussed earlier today. What is our satisfaction with our city or our lived experiences in our countries? How does that come together? And what is that convergence point between the top-down and the bottom-up to make sure that we are living a purposefully driven, happy, fruitful, thriving life? And Medina does that really well, right? They are able to bring those two pieces together and find the place that works for the city of Medina. Now that's their journey. Every city will have their own unique journey and how they get there. But there's a lot of lessons learned, and I think a lot of cities did benefit from collaborating with the city of Medina and following a little bit of the roadmap within which they laid.
So, through your collaboration with your, you call it pillars, the domains, and with what Al Medina is doing, Mr. Ibrahim, how truly means, what does it mean actually human-centric city to Al Medina and to what you are doing?
Yes, this is a very interesting question, because we've been in this dilemma in the past probably 7 or 8 years. The key lessons that we have realized throughout this journey, probably 3 key lessons. One is the city needs to focus on the outcomes rather than the inputs. Cities get lost with jumping to the solutions, either technology or policy, but forgetting about what do the people of the city, the residents and the visitors, really need. We, in our case, for instance, when we asked a big group of the visitors about what is the #1 experience that they feel about Al Medina city worldwide, what would you imagine about Al Medina? What would be the response? All of them agreed on the tranquility of the city, the serenity. Even the non-Muslims, they come to Medina for its serenity. So we need to keep that in mind.
Cool.
And we defined in our journey the core values as sustainability, resilience, and the quality of life. Then we need to understand that each city is unique. In Medina, we are always considered on the international and national level that we are a twin city with Mecca. Although there is no pilgrimage in Medina, the rituals are done only in Mecca, and this is a key differentiation between the two cities. Although they are both religious, but people go to Mecca for different objectives and reasons, and go to Medina completely for another reason. And consequently, historically, until now, this has been reflected into the DNA of the people who live in Saudi and who experience from the visitor side. Find Mecca people are what we call damhum har, hot blood, because they want the visitors to meet the deadline because of the rituals. But in Medina, there are no deadlines. They come for tranquility. The DNA of Medina people are completely calm. We need to reflect that in the human centricity part. So the solutions implemented in Mecca, not necessarily implemented in Medina. Also on the international level, for instance, the crowd management. Always the companies come to us, and I gave this example, and probably one of the big technology vendors who applied the crowd management in Osaka. I'm pretty sure if we invited them, they will come very proud of their solution of crowd management in Expo 2025 Osaka, for instance. But let us think for a second. I asked how many visitors on daily basis in the Expo. Maximum so far is 100,000. In Medina, we have on daily basis 250,000. In the seasons of Ramadan and Hajj, 450,000 on daily basis. Those visitors in Osaka, for instance, come throughout the day once. They don't come back and forth. In Medina, in 10 months, they come for 5 times, enter, 5 times goes out. In Ramadan, 7 times. 450,000 every single day. The area of the Expo here is 1,500,000 square kilometers or meters. No, kilometers. No, sorry, meters. The Prophet Mosque in Medina that hosts the 450 in Ramadan, less than 10,000 square meters. So it's a completely different aspect. So the solution that is applied in Osaka or any other city does not necessarily apply in Medina. So if we handle this, that each city is unique, we focus on the outcomes and build the solutions on the experiences of the unique experiences of the visitors and residents, then we started to practically say that the city is a human-centric city.
You mentioned something, you and Noura, about that livability is an outcome we are aiming for. Noura, can you tell us more about the 9 domains and how do you advise the cities or the communities when they want to use it? How do you think these will thrive their cities?
It's a very good question. If you take you back to my brief presentation when I said the 9 domains are really interconnected. And different cities will have different priorities at different points in time of their development or evolution. Some cities maybe need to focus on housing, others may need to focus on mobility, others may need to focus on health and well-being within their city, depending on that moment in time that they find themselves in. So it's really the connection between all of them that gives you that overall sense of well-being within your city, right? So it's very hard to say that this is the #1 priority. It's not a one-size-fits-all. That's the beautiful thing about quality of life, right? Quality of life is inclusive of everyone. But what's most important is that we recognize the local context of different cities. Medina has a different local context than Osaka. Osaka has a very different context than Singapore. Singapore has a different context from, say, Nairobi. And so the 9 domains are flexible in the sense that it allows you to tailor and work and set what your priorities are at that given point in time. it will change. Just like our priorities at an individual level or at a human level, when I'm in high school, I have different priorities than when I'm a university student, than when I'm starting my first job, or I'm starting a family, or when I'm thinking of retirement, although I don't think we're ever going to retire. If age continues to expand and healthy lifespan continues, you know, we continue to be active, vibrant participants in our communities and our economies. So it evolves. It's like a river. It keeps moving. It flows. It bends. It picks up speed. It slows down in speed. These are the 9 domains, right? And that's the beautiful thing about them.
Thank you so much, because the time, and my colleagues is saying time is almost. Okay. 2 more questions. One more question to Mr. Zamil, and another question. It's going to be the same question for everyone. The question that I would like to ask Mr. Zamil is, as a Ministry of Economy and Planning, looking ahead to 2030, what will distinguish the national vision for all over the world now? What is the things that you think that your mandate will help and you think people will really learn from? Because today we are leading.
So I think maybe the simple answer to this is the nature of the Ministry of Economy and Planning is quite cross-cutting with as a role in the center of government or in government in general. So we work with a wide spectrum of different types of stakeholders. And I believe that coherence at all levels is one of the strongest tools that we can strengthen and benefit from in terms of output. Whether it is policy coherence, whether it is coherence at all levels with different stakeholders, from government, as I was mentioning earlier, from authorities, considerations of private sector, third sector, different actors. Also, I mean, today we have a National Sustainable Development Steering Committee. This steering committee is headed by the Minister of Economy and Planning and the membership of 22 government entities, and of course a lot of different stakeholders from private sector and third sector as advisory boards. But the beauty about this is that within this governance, the steering committee, we have representations from Ministry of Interior, the Development Authority Center, the Ministry of Rural Affairs and municipal and housing, and they represent also, from a zoomed-in perspective, the holistic governance of localizing in general. So taking in the perspective of all of these different stakeholders and working with them closely is something that we work day and night to make sure that when we come out with recommendations in collaboration with these stakeholders, it is aligned and very strategically informed in collaboration with them. But also, coherence is not only looked at from a vertical perspective, but also from a horizontal perspective in our sense as well. We also make sure that we have science, technology, and innovation, communication, and capacity building that is aligned across all of the different actors. Without coherence among these enablers, delivery becomes fragmented. And the real test is not whether everyone agrees on paper, but whether they move together in practice And that's the culture we're trying to shape for the future.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Abdurrahman. I think all of us, we heard about how each governmental entity dealing with the Vision 2030 and with the young blood that we are now handling a lot of fires. The final question for this panel is going to be for all of you, and I just need from you just to tell me just one statement that now that vision sets the tone for the future of our country. What should we start doing today to earn it? What should we start doing today to earn it? Who wants to start first? I just want to have a small statement. So let's,
So can I
Your
start?
Highness.
Okay. As long as we remember, we share one future, and collectively we can thrive.
Thank you. Mr. Ibrahim, Mr. Zamil.
Sorry. So maybe I would say coherence is the backbone of effective localization.
Thank you. Mr. Ibrahim,
Can I say 2 points?
it's yours.
Then I want one back.
Okay.
Okay, one. Inclusion. We need to ensure that no one and no place is left behind.
Great. Okay.
Then building on inclusion, I would say respect, and respect for different values, and respect from communities for what I may have to bring to the table or offer to my community. So respect.
Super, Noura. Thank you so much. At the end, I would like to thank my guest, His Highness Abdurrahman bin Ayyaf, Mr. Abdurrahman Zamir from Ministry of Economy and Planning, Mr. Abdurrahman Ibrahim, Chief Data from the Al Madina Regional Development, and Noura Yusuf, Chief Global Engagement from Quality of Life Program. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And before we conclude the evening, we are delighted to welcome to the stage our final presenter, Ms. Rana Al-Yamani, a project manager and media ambassador for the Saudi Green Initiative. Ms. Rana will share insights on how the Saudi Green Initiative is shaping a greener and more sustainable future in Saudi Arabia, and she will be followed by Dr. Adel Zahrani for closing remarks. The floor is yours, Ms. Rana.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rana, and I'm from Saudi Arabia. So to begin today, this is a very short video about the Saudi Green Initiative, which I will be talking in depth about today. As you can see, we see here a couple of landscapes.
Salman Al Saud to demonstrate that a greener future is possible. Saudi Arabia's rich natural resources are an invitation to transform and fuel the future while protecting the natural environment. As part of Saudi Arabia's energy transition, over 6 gigawatts of renewable energy has been connected to the grid, and nearly 38 gigawatts is at different stages of development.
Green hydrogen is a clean energy source, zero emissions from the beginning till the end. By the end of 2026, we will be producing 600 tons of clean energy every day and exporting green hydrogen to the world.
Lucid is a technology company with a clear mission to advance the electric vehicle. The clean energy transition is not just a responsibility, it is an opportunity to enrich our lives and our future while minimizing our impact on the environment.
Saudi Arabia has already preserved nearly 400,000 square kilometers of land and sea, and this is just the beginning.
This is the Prince Mohammed bin Salman Reserve. Our ideology is that people and nature are one. They coexist, they coincide.
The reserve is the bridge between communities and sustainable future. Our mission is rewilding Arabia.
The Ras Sea destination is home to the world's 4th largest coral reef system. Our land and sea hold up the stories of our past and the key to our future. Our conservation efforts are actually not just to protect endangered species, but also to protect the heritage.
The land shaped our life and culture, and I want this land to be much better for my kids and the future generation to live here.
Restoring and greening land unlocks new economic opportunities and better quality of life. Since the launch of the Saudi Green Initiative, nearly 100 million trees have been planted, and an area the size of 155,000 football fields has been rehabilitated.
At Nasha Water Company, we are planting 6 million trees around the kingdom. We will collect sewage water, treat it, and then reuse it in irrigation of the trees.
هذه الأرض بدأت فيها من أول شجرة حتى وصلنا المليون. الحمد لله هذا فخر.
Every green space created or protected strengthens our connection with nature. Every tree, every park, every trail breathes life into our communities.
Great strides have been made, and we will continue our journey through collaboration and tangible action. This is your invitation to join the movement, because change requires action.
And action is in our nature.
So like I told you guys, the Saudi Green Initiative is what I'm going to talk about today. Saudi Arabia is situated in the Middle East and North Africa region. In this region, it hosts 13 of the 20 countries that are water-stressed in the world. Saudi Arabia specifically has been warming 40% faster than the Northern Hemisphere in the past 40 years. For the region as a whole, we have over 2,000 species that are threatened by extinction, and we are losing an estimated $9 billion annually due to land degradation. We have a 25% decline in forest area as a proportion of total land area since 1990, and we are losing $13 billion annually due to sandstorms. Because of these sandstorms, schools are closed, offices are closed, and supply chains are disrupted. Part of what you've heard today in the different presentations is Vision 2030. Vision 2030 is a national program that aims at diversifying the economy, empowering citizens, and also creating a better future. As part of Vision 2030 is the climate contribution. As such, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has introduced the Saudi Green Initiative. Inaugurated in 2021, the Saudi Green Initiative is a whole of society agenda. It aims to gather together the different projects, plans, and even work that is happening on the ground, and new plans that aim to contribute to sustainability, environmental protection, and climate mitigation. As of today, we have over 85 initiatives that are actively being engaged. We have over 35 entities that are actively delivering, and we have $18 billion in commitments. We are looking at the public sector doing work, the private sector, and also the nonprofit organizations in Saudi Arabia, all striving under one common goal. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has empowered senior leaders that we have in Saudi Arabia. His Royal Highness the Energy Minister, which is on your left-hand corner, is leading climate mitigation and also energy issues. Our Minister of Environment is leading the National Greening Plan, which aims at greening Saudi Arabia, and also the royal preserves. And lastly, our ambassador to the United States and to the world, Her Royal Highness, is also leading global advocacy on climate change. The SGI has three main pillars. Our first target is reducing emissions by 278 million tons per annum of CO2 equivalent. We are aiming to have an energy mix of 50% renewable energy and 50% gas. Our second target is to reach a whopping 10 billion trees that are grown in Saudi Arabia. And our third target is protecting the land and seas. And essentially what we mean by this is having preserves, both royal and government reserves, in the land areas, but also in the marine areas to protect the vital ecosystems that live in it. If we dig a little deeper and zoom in to the first target, we have our journey to the net zero emissions. His Royal Highness has announced that by the year 2060, Saudi Arabia should have zero net emissions. And as such, this is where the by 2030, we will reach 278 million tons per annum of reduced emissions. So far, we have 6.6 gigawatts that are renewable energy connected to the grid. When it comes to planting trees, as you can see here in the map of Saudi Arabia, we have various different land types. And each land type needs a specific type of tree that is grown in it. And so far, we have started with a baseline in 2021 of 10 million trees, and we've planted over 115 million trees since the launch of the Saudi Green Initiative. We aim to have over 600 million trees by 2030. And lastly, when it comes to our target of protecting the land and seas, what you can see here on the map is the different reserves in Saudi Arabia that are perfectly protected, where hunting is not allowed, and where even cutting the wood or chopping it is not allowed. And we also have vital marine areas in the eastern and western regions. We started out with around 17% of protected areas of Saudi Arabia. As of last year, we've reached 18.1% of land protected and 6.49% of marine areas protected. We're aiming that by 2030 that we have 30% of Saudi Arabia's land and seas protected. And to put that into context, that is around 400,000 square kilometers of Saudi Arabia. So to give you a little bit of the practical aspect of it, what have we achieved? The Saudi Green Initiative has focused on empowering communities at the grassroots level, also empowering women, and inspiring the young children with educational programs about sustainability and environmental protection. For example, we have had 37 million saplings planted in partnership with the National Center of Vegetation Coverage. And when we say saplings, we mean baby trees. And we have our 40 new female recruits hired in 2025, and that makes up a total of 34% of the Royal Reserves team of 184 people. And most vitally is the reintroduction of the cheetah the Arabian leopard to the Arabian Peninsula. Oh yeah, I got it right, the cheetah. Yeah, in almost 4 decades. And lastly, we introduced Namur as of last year. Namur is the mascot for the Saudi Green Initiative, and his aim is to help children to become environmental heroes and bring vital importance to the Arabian cheetah. At the end of every year, we at the Secretariat convene in Riyadh to create the SGI Forum. We bring together leaders in climate and sustainability and talk about the best solutions that have been made, learning from past problems, and the achievements that we've done in the past year when it comes to the Saudi Green Initiative. We've done so much so far, but we also need to do more. We're very happy to welcome you to the Saudi Pavilion, where you can engage with the augmented reality game for Namur and learn a little bit more about Saudi Arabia, but also the Green Initiative. So thank you so much.
We had fun today. Nice topics we talked about. Vision of a country with the young generation, and finally, the future we deserve. We have just journeyed across scales, from policymakers to pavement, from governance to gardens, from national strategy to the silent hopes of everyday life. And if there is one truth this panel revealed, it's this: a better future is not inherited, it's intentionally designed. From each of our distinguished panelists, we heard a shared conviction expressed in different languages. From the Quality of Life program, we were reminded that the most livable cities aren't defined by luxury, they are defined by dignity. A city becomes real when I can live according to my values and feel values from who I am. That's not infrastructure, that's identity, that's belonging. From Al Medina, we were reminded for the guardianship. No one is left behind, because to hand over a city to the next generation with pride, we must ensure that everyone has a place, and that place reflects justice, access, and shared memory. From the Ministry of Interior, we were grounded in responsibilities. As long as we remember we share one future, we will work together to achieve it. That's governance, as trust, not just control, as coordination, not command. From the Ministry of Economy and Planning, the message was laser sharp. When national and local priorities aligned, when resources, data, and mandates converge, we do not just implement SDGs. We make them mean something: jobs, health, education, equity. We move from silos to synergy, from mandates to measurable change. And from Roshan, we were reminded we are not just building houses, we are designing destinations, places that hold our history and propel our people forward. Places where the soul of Saudi Arabia is felt in every courtyard, every shared plaza, every walkable, welcoming the edges. So, why does this matter? Because Saudi Arabia today is not just planning for the future, it's prototyping the future. At a scale few nations dare to imagine, with clarity a few governments have achieved, with the cultural depth that honor the past while shaping the future. The world is watching, not because we are loud, but because we are leading. So, what now? We return to our roles, some as policymakers, others are designers, data analysts, planners, CEOs. But we return with a shared compass to build places where people don't just live, they belong, to deliver outcomes that are not just measured, but felt. To create cities that are not just sustainable, but soulful. Because if we want the next generation to inherit more than assets and asphalt, we must give them places that care, places that whisper, "You matter here." Let this panel not be the end of the conversation, but the beginning of a movement. Let's go build the future we all deserve, and let Saudi Arabia continue to lead the way. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming today. Thank you for your time and thank you for being here with us. If you don't mind, Engineer Adil Al-Faiz and the panelists, if you can come to the stage for photography, quick session for memories. Thank you everyone for joining and we appreciate your time. Thanks again.